mission of Marshall Public Schools is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any additions, corrections, or? Not, I'll call for the vote. Agenda is approved. Next item is a public forum. I don't see anybody from the public, so we'll move on. Mr. Remme, as Mr. Remme makes his way up here, I would just like to say it's been an awful difficult winter, and on behalf of the board, we'd just like to thank you for getting through it. And I know it's not over yet, but it's been a challenge, I know. So thank you for everything that you do. And a lot of people don't realize that you're not the athletic director, you're the activities director, which means speech and concerts and VPA and everything else. So,
thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, it certainly was a challenging few weeks, but we got through it. We got good people on board, so we're thankful for the support we get from everybody. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and visit with you a little bit about a process that's been ongoing throughout the year through the activities leadership team, through our administrative team, looking at the Tiger brand. And we're going to talk a little about why we feel like that's important and what that all entails. So if I can make this thing work, I'll click through a few things for you. As you're all familiar with the official, quote, official Marshall Tiger logo that's been in place and has been used by our district for a number of years. You're very familiar with it. It's on the wall in here. Unfortunately, it's not always being officially used. And that's where and why taking a look at how Marshall Public Schools brands itself is worth a review and is worth taking some time to look at, and that's something that we've been working through. If you remember back to last year, the school board adopted a plan with a company called BSN for some apparel and uniforms and things like that. Well, part of that whole package that the board adopted included a session or a package with VIP branding. That's a subsidiary company that works with BSN. And once that was approved, we started in working with VIP on what the Marshall Tiger brand should look like, what it does look like. And they're a professional company specializing in that. Why is branding even important? Here's some things that VIP branding puts out and helped us understand and kind of get the process started. Branding helps create a unique vision. It can help improve school spirit, student involvement, and community involvement. I think it's hard to argue against any of those things as being a positive for a school district. Anytime we can better engage our constituents, whether that's our students, our families, our community, that's something that helps everybody identify with Marshall Public Schools. And that's one of the things that a professional branding package can help with. One of the biggest problems that a lot of schools have, not just us, is inconsistency in the use of their logos. You can see right there, an age-old issue plagues schools. Examples, coaches using one thing, the band director using something else, student government using something else. All variations that lack any consistency makes it hard for people to identify with one brand or one common theme. So I'm back to this as being the official logo, but if you look around town, it doesn't take too long to see variations of this or completely different things. You might see this. That's, yeah, it does kind of look like that. Back in the old days. You see this around there, the block M, or what I would call the University of Minnesota M, just in different colors. Moorhead actually uses an M very similar to this. You see a Tiger baseball logo that looks something like that. or you see a Tiger baseball logo that looks like this on the hats that have been there. You see this used on football helmets. You see this, the Tiger speech team has their own kind of identity. The marching band for years has used that tiger with a somewhat of an Old English M and a hat. The cross-country team, the soccer team, you're getting the feel for this. Then you have the Pride in the Tiger Foundation, who also uses the same head, but really is separate from the school. It's its own foundation. Took a picture of the Marshall High School floor right inside the door, not using any of those. Just another variation. The other thing with the particular tiger head that we use, it is public domain. It's nothing that's been created by us or for us. So other schools have used this. You can see there just a couple of snapshots. The Lake City School District, also the Tigers, uses it. Down on the bottom, Morris Chicago, Alberta Tigers have used it. The Springfield High School has used this same logo. I know for a while Delano was using it. They've now moved to a different one of their own, but it's public out there, and you can kind of see some of the challenges that creates. There's lots of different things and maybe lacks some consistency. So our ALT, or our activities leadership team, actually started this conversation quite a while back, and we started talking about, what can we do to improve school spirit? What can we do to better unify all of our activities? And one of the thoughts was, if we could ever get some consistency in what we identify ourselves with, maybe that's a starting point. Maybe that's something that we can all rally behind and try to help build a little more uniformity in what we do. So we started down this process with VIP branding, and they contacted us, probably back in August, when they kind of started the ball rolling and had an introductory session with us, kind of showed us what their company's about, what they do, how the process works, and asked for some input. What kinds of things do you like? What do you not like? What do you think your school district would be interested in? And here's kind of what their process is. I'm just going to walk you through a little bit. So they have artists that start with some sketches. After listening to you talk through some things, they start building some sketches out. Your role is to supply feedback and revisions. So they started with some sketches, and I'll show you some early things that they did for us. And then they create what they call a base camp. It's like an online forum. I know Mr. Munson was part of that. All of our activities leadership team members were all a part of that. So throughout the process, they would send us new updates and ask for feedback, and we'd be able to say, hey, we really like this. We don't really like this. Could you maybe look at doing this? So it was very interactive that way in revising different looks. Once your branding package, once you approve or choose one of their sketches, refine it, then you get corresponding marks that go with it. And these are just some samples. This is a made-up Cypress Park High School. But you might choose to have an alternative mark like a paw print. You might choose to have initials or letters that go with it. So those come with it. You also get word marks, vector forms that come with it. So official fonts. I remember when we built the track over with SMSU, and the turf company contacted us and said, what font do you want Tigers in? And I said, what do you mean, what font? Well, we have to have a specific font. Like the Mustang font is, I don't know what the... Albertus, okay? That's what they told me, and I said, well, I don't care. You can use that. I guess we don't have anything specific. So this would bring something specific that would always be used and identified with us. And then the end product is there's this branding guide that you get. It has the official school marks, the approved colors. Again, some of these words were all new to me. Pantone, that was something that was expanded in my vocabulary. Apparently there are certain colors and they have formulas that can be created so that everything's consistent all the time. Font names, recommendations for brand usage. So right down to if you're going to use the tiger head, if it's a head or a tiger body, where it should be placed in relation to the words Marshall Public Schools. Should it be arced? Should it be straight? Should it be to the left, to the right? So everything is consistent and uniform. So that's kind of what working through a company like this brings as an end result. All right? Before I go any further, are there any questions thus far that I could maybe answer? All right. Well, we'll keep rolling through. Here's a sample. Again, this is a made-up school, the St. Cloud Bulldogs. This just kind of shows you the total final package that you might get. You're going to get a mascot. You're going to get an alternate mark. So in this particular sample, there's the mascot. The mascot head would be an alternate mark, and the initials would be an alternate mark. You can see here how they use St. Cloud High School. They've added up here, established in 1909. They've added a banner there. They can pull apart and just have Bulldogs Athletics, and that could be changed. It might say Bulldog Marching Band. It might say Bulldog Speech Team, whatever. You change that little piece of it, but it's always, you notice, the same colors, the same block font, the same positioning of it, the same arc to it. That's the idea, is that you end up with something that looks like that. So here's some early things that were thrown to us. They just threw out some different things. They sketched out some tigers, and what do you like, what do you not like? And you know, you take a look at that, you evaluate it. We had a lot of feedback from our people on what we liked, what we didn't like. You progress to some other sketches. So they started to throw out some different looking tiger bodies and different tiger heads. Kind of a, whoops, I'm going to back up if I can point. More of a head-on facial view versus kind of a side profile. Same thing here, you get a side profile, full body versus just a head. So you see lots of different changes. Here they incorporated some different looks. You can kind of see here they started to put some, whoops, I'm going to back up. Kind of an M branded right on the forehead of the tiger. Something a little unique, make it a little more custom. Wanted some feedback on that. In the tiger body, there's kind of a hidden M there in the stripes that they did. Ask for some feedback. Do you like any of those things? So lots of different revisions, and these aren't all of them. I just picked a few to show you some samples. So then we started to continue to progress it a little bit further. Here we asked for some samples of, we were having a hard time really picturing how this might look in more of a completed package. You know, what might it look like with some words or something like that? So they gave us a sample, a couple different samples actually. These are two, I think they gave us 4 or 5 different word mark samples. A straight look with a tiger on top. Again, they kind of said it doesn't have to be this way. This is just a sample to give you an idea. So some feedback on some things there. The other thing that you start to notice here is this tiger face. If you look close, there is still kind of the M there, orange, instead of the black, what we call the unibrow tiger that you saw back here. Here it's a little different, distinctive, something a little different. They updated again and gave us a couple of options here with just the tiger head. You know, similar to what we have here as our primary logo. It's just a tiger head, it's not a full body. But again, gave us a banner option here with a banner below, tiger head in the middle, something like this, a different font, place the mascot below it. And we gave them some feedback on some of those things. We really kind of liked, as we talked through it, we kind of liked these little tiger stripes or claw marks, depending on what your interpretation of it is. So we said we kind of like that. but we also kind of saw some things we didn't like. We talked with our admin team. Somebody brought up the fact that this banner logo looks kind of similar to the Red Baron Arena logo that's used in town here. That jumped out at somebody. The idea that if you took the tiger out of this, using just Marshall and high school or middle school or athletics or whatever on two separate banners didn't seem real uniform, kind of chopped up. So gravitated a little more towards this particular look. Then they came back with something like this. They incorporated kind of the tiger stripes or the claws into the M, put it on here, gave it a real unique look, something very distinctive and unique. Kind of placed it over this as a sample of what you might end up with. Kind of a font choice. The tiger head that had the hidden M in the forehead, along with the clock. So incorporate a lot of what we liked from different things, kind of put it all back together. And that's kind of where we're at with them right now. We've talked as an admin team, we've talked as an activities leadership team about kind of all of those different things, along with some of them I didn't show you tonight, what we like, what we don't like. We really kind of feel like we're at the point where we need to give them, VIP needs to know what's going to be your primary mascot. That's the first step. And then they can kind of finish the product. Do you want a full body or do you want a tiger head? That's basically the question we're at right now. And if you want a full body or you want a tiger head, are you happy with any of what we've shown you so far? To answer that question, as we talked at admin team and as we talked at our activities leadership team, this would be the recommendation at this point. As I pointed out, some of the uniqueness of both the head and the words, the word marks, the M, the claw marks, the font, all of those things are, but also had some people who really like the full body tiger and some aspects of that. You know, I liken it to the SMSU brand that you see around town a lot. They went through a rebranding a couple years ago, freshened it up from the old horse to the new horse head used with the SMSU. Sometimes you see just the horse head. Sometimes you see horse head with the letters SMSU. Sometimes you just see SMSU. Same concept. You'd be able to pick this stuff apart and use pieces of it when you want. You might use just an M. You might use Marshall with baseball, or you might use Marshall with Westside Elementary, absent of the tiger head. We could choose to have them create an alternate tiger paw print that we could use, but it would always be the same consistent. Whatever we choose, we'd stick with that. So that's kind of brings you up to speed of where we're at. Then once we kind of give them the okay, that's the primary logo, they'll finish building out the colors, the palettes, and then we would ultimately bring a full package back for adoption by the district and move it forward. And that would become what we'd use consistently, whether it's in our activities department, whether it's at letterhead that comes out of the district office. We might have to change the background here on the wall, some of those kinds of things. Slowly, yeah. There's things that you can do.
Gym floors, that wouldn't be as
Yeah, next time those are stripped down, and you would change those things out as you progress.
Would that just the M, the letter, be used as the new letters for their letter jackets? Would that?
We could potentially have that created as a custom letter, rather than the block letter that.
Wear those everywhere, you know.
Yep. Rather than the block letter that we're. Yep. We could have that created.
Bruce, this spring?
Say again?
This spring? Your target date to make a decision this spring?
Their
Or?
Yeah, their VIP branding would love to get this wrapped up.
And you as well?
They're ready to roll. We just need to really narrow down what the primary mascot will be. And then the rest of it kind of falls into place after that. And they've done a lot of work on this, and I would commend VIP. They've been very responsive. I think Scott would agree with me. I mean, we've asked for a number of different things to look at and little tweaks here and there. They've been pretty good about timely getting those things back to us and being able to take some of our own ideas into it.
Bruce, what's student involvement been at this point?
None. Really haven't been. We did talk with our student link crew members. Excuse me, it was student council that we're looking at doing this process, and that was back in the fall. But we really didn't have a lot to share with them. You know, we just talked that this is a process that we're going to be able to go through, looking at freshening up the Tiger logo that you see.
Your recommendation, I think you said, is going to be this. You want to back up one slide, Patricia? That, or Bruce, sorry. Yeah, that one. If you went with the full body, could you pull out that head and have that be a secondary?
You could.
One reason I ask is when the board packet came out, there was 2 choices. So I immediately said, all right, what do people think? I started asking around the community. And overwhelmingly, the response was, well, I like the full body.
Yep.
I'm like,
you could.
I know how this process works. As many people as you ask, you're going to get as many opinions. So
yep. You could have the full body, like maybe this guy. Use this as one of your alternates, and then choose another alternate, whether it's an M or whether it's a paw, because that's what comes with the package. I'm sure if we wanted to ask them, they would be happy for additional fees to create as many alternates as we might want. But this was all included with the package we originally were granted. Was 3 primary marks, or a primary mark and 2 alternates. So yeah, that would be an option. One of the concerns that activities leadership had with the full body was as you shrink that down, you know, if you're going to put it on something small like on here or whatever, how is that going to really work?
As you start embroidering, goes up too.
Yep. Yep. On embroidering or even on letterhead on the top of a, you know, as you shrink things down and you want to be able to use it, is it still going to look the way you want it to look?
Bruce, do we have plans to trademark this then when this is done?
That's an option that you would have as a board. You would have to choose. VIP will trademark it for you if you want to go that route. And there's certainly some value in doing that. There's also some obstacles in doing that. So you have to choose whether or not you'd like that to be done. If you don't, they'll still give you the full package. You'll get your booklet with all your colors and schemes, and you can share that as you choose to share it.
Do they do any of the licensing and fee collection on that?
Yep. Yep. Anything else?
So what are we approving tonight? We're just approving that you continue. Are we approving the last option? Right?
Yeah, the recommendation is right there in the bottom right-hand corner. But VIP kind of, if I understand correctly, Bruce, VIP needs a commitment that, yes, this is your primary logo, whatever, and then they invest the time and energy in the rest of.
Yep, in building out the rest, and then we would come back with a full package complete with, you know, the fonts, the colors, the placement scheme, all of that. Everything right now is still this is draft. All of this is VIP's draft, sketches. None of it's final right now. We just really need to let them know, do we want.
This is your recommendation from your committee, from all of your work.
Yep, from what we'd like to move forward with so that we can start to complete the package and hopefully bring you back something that has everything in it.
Do you feel like everybody is, I mean, when I say everybody, but do you feel like all of the coaches and directors and different activities that you oversee, are they all on board with this? Or if we do something like this, are we gonna in 5 years come back and see what we're seeing today?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, I think that's one of our challenges once once something is adopted, that we have to work with everybody and help explain why and why it's important and how it can be beneficial. And I think that comes back to us as a district and leadership in helping everybody understand the value in doing that.
I think part of the problem why we've had several different dances is because we haven't had put this in board policy. I recommend approval.
I would say two things too. Bruce, and I'm not speaking for the board, but I think it's worth considering. I think you're right, there probably would be an extra charge for a fourth logo or whatever you want to call it, but I also think that if folks feel that if this is going to be our primary one, but I agree with Bill. I like having the full body option as well on top of the print, and I think it's important with all the work that's happened and already and what we're trying to accomplish that we not cut corners. If that means an extra $1,000 or whatever, I think that's a good expenditure to do it right, and you and I can visit about that. I'll circle back, Bill, to what you were talking about. Bruce and I have talked about the franchise fee. I guess I would say preview a little bit when or if that comes up for a recommendation. I don't believe we'll recommend that just because we don't want to penalize our local businesses. We want to make this available to them, right? And encourage them to use it as much as possible instead of saying, here it is, you can get it for $2 per piece of clothing or whatever. We're a long ways away from there, and we'll certainly have some discussion about that, but I guess that's something that Bruce and I have spoken about.
And I think the important thing of that, it's not so much money, and it's not a lot of money. I don't think it's about the money as much as it is about the enforcement.
Yeah, use it
It's
consistently.
like making sure they're buying by the Pantone colors, the proper fonts, appropriate usage. And our local vendors are
They're awesome.
really good about making sure they do that, whether or not it's a licensed type situation or not. But I think that's probably one of the bigger things is that if somebody from somewhere else in the country wants to sell Marshall Tiger apparel and it's trademarked, they have to go through a license project, which somehow brings approval back to here, say, yeah, you can do that, or no, we don't want something like that happening. So it's not always about the money as it is about the control and the brand.
Good point. Anything else, Bruce? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Next item is approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Bill,
Second.
questions? I'll call for the vote. That is approved. Financial report. Mr. Karen.
General fund bills were a little higher this month compared to last month. We had some of our annual, and then the co-op bills us 3 times a year. So their final bill was paid, was included in those. Otherwise, everything was pretty normal.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills. Need a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Bills are paid. Any further comments, Dion, on the treasurer's report?
No, just Russ and Tammy and I each month go through the bills, and percentage-wise, it's comparative to previous years. So.
Good. Board forum, any updates from the board? I did attend a meeting with the community services and some other community members concerning the aquatic center this past Wednesday. They are looking into remodeling or building from scratch new aquatic centers, or adding some amenities to what we have. It's a pretty huge project. We have a consultant and an engineer working on it, and they will bring recommendations to us, and we'll recommend to the city talked about probably for a year before it's done. Tricia was there too. It was a good meeting. A lot of input about what our pool needs and how to get people to come to Marshall instead of going to their rooms.
I attended the city administrator and mayor's State of the City presentation last Wednesday, and a question was asked about upcoming referendum, and you know, if city leadership and elected officials are going to take a stance. And it was encouraging to hear, you know, both the mayor and the city administrator speak out about the merits of the project and the need. I think they were right in saying, you know, as a city council, we're going to respect the work of the school board and the recommendations of the school board, but they probably won't take an official stand. They'll stay in their lane, both the mayor, but he personally spoke about the value of it. So that was encouraging to see, and they both talked about it as a, you know, an important step for the city in our future this year. So that was good.
Anything else?
Can I, Matt, just briefly? So a couple different things just to point out to you for informational purposes. Tricia has updated our policy review timeline, and that's an attachment in one of the agenda items. It's by policy. Ironically, we need to review every policy at least once in 3 years. So I think we've gone through these already, reviewed them all, and now it's sort of time to, in fact, I think we have started over maybe. But it's just informational purposes if you ever kind of want to get a sense of what policies we'll be looking at, what all policies we have, what series, different things like that. That will guide the work that primarily Tricia does with, and she does a really nice job. That'll guide the work that she does on keeping our policies up to date. And then the last thing I wanted to mention in that is I think there's 4 things in the school board goal progress tracking document relating to advocacy. Now's a really busy time. In fact, I think there was in MSBA's email today, there was an important opportunity to reach out to the governor and 2 of the chairs, one in the Senate and one in the House, about Pelsby is already being proposed. The new licensure system is already being proposed to be changed. And we need to put the brakes on that because we're in year 1. Exactly. So great opportunity to advocate and reach out to the people in that email and just continuing to work on your goal as a school board to advocate.
Can I just ask for this in Jews? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Okay, can you let Scott or I know? Makes it easier to track. Thank you. Mr. Munson, reports.
Yep. I just pull a couple things from everybody's report. And again, I'd encourage you to read the entire report. There's some awesome information in there and things that it's good to be aware of. In my report, I just talked about the legislative session, and I included those common advocacy points that many of the education-related organizations share and are common. And I think that common message, if they hear that from us, legislators and or the governor, and they also hear it from, say, Education Minnesota or Schools for Equity and Education or AMSD or whomever, similar points, I think they stick a little bit more. And then I included various updates on the facilities referendum. In Tiffany's early childhood report, she shared some information about ALICE is now being implemented, rolled out with our students. Information has been sent home, made available to the parents, and everyone at each site is planning sort of their own age or building specific rollout to help students get acclimated with the new emergency preparedness model. And Tiffany also shared that Little Cub's preschool registration is open, and I believe there's about 70 students registered already. Darcy's report from Parkside, important date coming up on April 2nd, where we have kindergarten roundup from 4:30 to 6 o'clock p.m. If you're available, I would encourage you to show up and just mingle with parents, and that's an opportunity for us to really encourage families to enroll their child or children in kindergarten next year and sell Parkside in our school district a little bit, so it's always good to see school board members there. Jim's report from Westside, he shared a variety of activities associated with I Love to Read Month, which was in February. And he also shared information about the Summer Jumpstart program that we're going to be offering to sort of give students in grades 1 through 8 a boost in reading and math. Obviously, that'll happen over the summer, so it's a good program. Mary Kay's report from the middle school on February 22nd. 8th graders registered for 9th grade next year, and hopefully that transition to 9th grade in the high school will go well for them. And then Mary Kay also listed several department updates from music and some really good information in there. The high school report from Brian, registration for next year is, I'll say, partially completed in that students have signed up for classes, so to speak, or said here's what they're interested in. So now the real fun begins, where they have to, counselors and Brian and other people have to say, okay, we have X number of students registered for this class, and we have so many teaching periods available for this, and try to create the schedule from that. So it'll be a busy next couple of months. And then he also shared that 215, I believe it was, juniors from MHS and Maytech attended the ACT Prep Day at SMSU on March 12th, and that's through our Achievement and Integration Collaborative. We really appreciate SMSU's willingness to host that event. I think we bring in maybe 500 or more juniors from our Achievement and Integration Collaborative, and we've had some really positive feedback on that from the juniors and ladies who went through it last year. Chad's report from Maytech, they had 96% attendance at parent-teacher conferences on February 26th, which is outstanding and very good for them historically as well. And then he also shared some informative information about student academics and the site continuous improvement plan at Maytech. Bruce was just here, and I should have commented to him about this, and I'll do that the next time I see him. But Bruce does a really nice job of being a positive role model and making sure our coaches, in this case, understand what is expected of them. And each year as officials, for all of the sports, they have the opportunity to rate each participating school's spectators, coaches, players, and then home management. Folks like Bruce and the ratings were, I think, the highest that I've seen since I've been here on a 5-point scale, 4.3 to 4.4. I usually rate mine all 4 unless it's an outstanding experience. Then I rate it a 5, or on the other end of the spectrum, a 3. So to get an average of, like I said, 4.4 says a lot about our coaches, our participants, and Bruce. Tongue in cheek, I would say our spectators received the lowest rating. So we've got a little work to do with them, but that's still a really high rating.
At a 4.3, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is really good, absolutely. Scott Vandermillen shared that Studio One TV broadcast 13 MPS events during February, so thanks to Alex and Ryan and everybody for helping make these available for folks who, especially this winter, maybe don't want to travel because of everything, but making those available for people to watch either online or on delay or something. Beth, for her report, shared a family engagement event that's coming up the morning of Saturday, March 30th from 9:30 to 11:30. They're going to have morning at the movies. Can't remember the movie they're going to show, but just a way to get families to come to something free that we're trying to do to engage them. And in addition to seeing the movie, there's some other activities that they have planned, so a great way to reach out to our families and just really work on a lot of things and help them and support them. Jackie's special education report, she had some nice information in there about the behavior coach position that was approved, I think, for this year, and that we've obviously are monitoring as it continues to evolve. And she will be here in May to share some information about how that program is going, but she provided an update. And then she also shared projected student and staffing numbers for 2019-20. I should say staffing updates because we've had a couple of openings, and I think there's 2 that she or we have filled already, so that's good. Jeremy's report in teaching and learning, he talking about work that's happening on our achievement and integration plan, and also the e-learning day committee update that I believe Bill was a part of. So some really good information in their reports, and I appreciate them taking time to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Karen. You're up.
Just touch on a few things in mine. Congratulations to Southwest ABE. They were selected for the President's Community Partner Award. Also wanted to thank the Sunrise Rotary. Matt and I went and presented on March 14th. There was about 20 in attendance. Good, seemed like a good response, kind of going off what Bill said too, is it was a positive response, and we appreciated their support basically of the referendum. And there was some talk about how important it is for the community. And then last thing coming up, you guys will vote on approving the bid process for the safety grant. Just part of the process, we tried to include buildings in on that. When ATS&R was here, we sat down with Mary Kay and Peter here. Bruce Girls was invited, but unfortunately couldn't make it. Sat down with Tiffany to show her area, and then over at Westside, visited with Jim Gagner and Tom Blooming, just so they knew what was all involved with it. So.
Very good. Girls, your report.
Okay, so at the Marshall Middle School, there's some things that were postponed because of the 2 hours late and early outs, so some of these dates might be a little off. But 5th and 7th grade and the 6th and 8th grade winter band concert was on March 14th, and I think that one was postponed. March 19th, 5th and 6th grade quarter 3 general music concert, and 7th and 8th grade choir and their pop concert is tomorrow. And quarter 3 ends on March 29th. Beats performance on March 30th through the 31st. And then there's an all-city jazz concert on April 1st at 7 p.m. And at Parkside, we have the quarter 3 conferences at the end of the quarter. Kindergarten Roundup on April 2nd, concert on April 4th, and author Terry DeGezel Michaels is visiting on April 9th. And kindergarten concert on April 11th, and the 2nd grade is going to the SMSU theater trip on April 12th.
Okay, I had the Marshall High School. The speech Big South Conference was postponed to a later date. Currently right now is unknown due to the weather dilation. End of quarter 3 would be on Friday, March 29th. Congratulations to the girls basketball team for winning the AAA Constellation Finals. On Maytech, CNA students are finishing up with their clinicals to take their test out on March 28th to receive their certificate. For Westside, 3rd and 4th grade concert would be at MHS on Thursday, March 21st. Conferences will be on Thursday, March 28th. Spring MCA math test will be on April 1st to 5th. Spring MCA reading test will be on April 8th to 12th.
Thank you. The next item, discussion item, the first review of policies 350 to 530 to 534 and 540. Any questions at this time on those policies? Now we'll move on to our action items. Authorization to solicit bids for the middle school and west side school safety grant. Will need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I guess I just have one question on west side. If the referendum passes, will we continue to pursue that, or?
We plan to, for the reason that they'll still be there for a couple of years. And we're authorized the grant money for it. Westside does not have an not even close to what middle schools is.
Sure.
I think it was probably under half of what middle schools grant was. Yep.
Well, I would just add, from a facilities committee standpoint, we too did talk about there's any equipment that would be transferable from this
Use
remodel
somewhere
to the new facility if possible.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. That is approved. Next item is authorization to proceed with the branding logo that Bruce talked about. Okay. Second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
So we need to decide here. Here's the hard part. They left us in this motion with A or B. And Bruce left.
His recommendation.
It was A. Yeah.
But,
But we have option
So
for
we
the,
still have an option if we want to use another.
right,
that's what I understood.
is what I shared. You know, what Bruce said is that this, whichever A or B would be the primary logo, and that comes with the branding package. And then there are two, I'll call them secondary logos. One could be a letter, M, another one could be paw prints, another one could be the body. We'll find out the cost I think we want the letter because that's going to look best on caps probably and other things. I think the paw print, we can use that with one of the comments that came up at admin, for example, was making sure that we have something appropriate for younger students. So the paw print could be, still tigers and still unique to Marshall, but yet not quite as ferocious as the whole body or the face. So we'll find out the cost, but if that's the case, that it's X number of dollars, I guess informally, not part of the motion, but if you would have an issue with us getting one more, so having a paw print, a letter, and the full body, even though you're approving this, if that's what you vote for, we would pursue that.
Can you go to option B, Tricia? So if you see how this one's all tied together, and you go back to A is essentially, if you look at it close enough, there's two elements. My question is, how much this work product is ours? So when all is said and done, they come up with the primary logo and right now I think two secondaries. Do we have the option to take this apart and now you've got four?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can just use
The top?
yeah,
Just use the
yeah,
bottom.
or the banner. Yep.
Which is why I lean towards the B with the full body.
It's fine.
It just gives you more options. If you approve this as your primary, we don't have the full body tiger anywhere in the mix. Is that correct? Or were you saying, Scott, we could?
It could be. I can't tell you I know this for sure, but I think, the full body could perhaps take the place of a letter or the paw print or something.
So from a process standpoint, I'm sorry, I've done this before, since I know the problems it can create. You don't get it right. If you do the full-bodied one as your primary, it's easier to get to these as secondary elements than I think it is to have your.
So if we do
They have
that,
to
can
be
we
a
still
secondary.
pull the head off?
Yeah. Yes.
Can
That's
you
what I'm
use that?
saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Will they let us do that?
I would guess no, but I don't know.
Unless you have that head just like that as one of your secondaries. So if you go back to that example they shared of that St. Cloud, they showed all the different, basically your different brand elements.
I think the full body is too busy, in my opinion, as first choice.
I think it's
So you
certain.
talked about it when it's embroidered and so forth, the additional expenses that.
Yeah, I agree. In certain places, it absolutely is. I just trying to think what would give us the most options as a district.
Yeah, I hear you.
I do like having a full body option though. I mean, that could look really sharp if it's done right on,
Well,
apparel
my
or,
understanding is
yeah.
that we have that option, right?
The full body?
Would we purchase that option?
We could, yeah.
And that was kind of what you discussed.
Yeah, I don't know
To make
what-
that available.
what the cost would be, but, yeah. We could, yes. Just wouldn't be part of the package is the process and the primary logo and 2 secondary logos and then the colors. And
The concern I have with that, when you've got several different coaches and activities, is one going to choose the full body and the other the, don't we want some consistency?
Well, I think that's where your use of the fonts and how they're placed with each other is important. And so you do get a family of you know, images that all tie together. You two are quiet over here. What are your thoughts?
I like option A. The only thing that I can point out is like the eyes are orange, which blends out with the background. That's the only thing I believe, but I don't know how I feel. Well, what do you want to say?
I just have a question. So if we do get the option A and we get the body, would it still be under the letters or would it be moved up to the top to make it look like B?
And I can't answer. I think it would be, for consistency purposes, I think it would be under, but.
And then I'm-
Because with all due respect, what we're trying to get away from is 57 different variations of all this, you know, but still have as much flexibility within what we do, which I think maybe is an argument for, let's find out what a 4th logo is, and if it's not too cost prohibitive, let's pursue it.
So if we go with
primary logo, what we're going to use on our letterhead and primary everyday use, and then we can have those alternate packages coming back.
So if we vote to approve A tonight, we would have to come back and vote on if we get a 4th one, because it's going to cost us more. We have 4 on that.
Well, you're still going to vote on, you know, so in April or May, when they finish up this process, you're going to get a
Approve the
full
whole
palette of
package.
everything.
Okay.
And then I would,
Just approving the basic starting.
Right.
Starting.
and then at that point in time, you might have option A, the base package of everything, or option B, which is the base package plus one more vector image or whatever.
I would, do we need to, I made the motion or he made the motion? What was your motion?
To adopt the recommendation from the committee.
That's what I thought I said. That's what I thought I said.
Option A.
That's what I thought I said. We're good, let's vote.
Okay, I'll call for the vote.
I think you said B. I
For the
said B.
recommendation.
Yes, I take from you guys.
She's gonna move me down the other end, I think, you guys.
Get confusing when there's a blank in the motion, doesn't it?
Okay, that is approved. We're good to go. Anything else?